Information, including your image and personal opinions, may be collected and disclosed as part of council proceedings on the video. When presenting to council, if you're acting as a representative of a resident of Oak Bay or speaking of another party, please ensure that you are not disclosing any personal information about that person for which you do not have the consent to do so. As you can tell, this is a fairly formal process that we go through as part of public hearings. So I'm just going to go over, outline the protocols for tonight's public hearing. First, just everyone wishing to speak will be given an opportunity to be heard. My ask is that speakers limit their initial comments to a maximum of 5 minutes so that everybody has an opportunity to speak. Once everyone has had an chance to speak, those wishing to speak again may do so if they have new points to present. Please keep your comments respectful of council and staff and other members of the public. All comments are to be directed to the mayor and council and must relate to the proposed bylaw. The purpose of the public hearing is to give council an opportunity to listen to the views expressed by the public. So just to be clear, the public hearing is not an opportunity for the public to learn details about the application. This opportunity occurred through previous meetings and presentations and within the staff reports provided to date. This is also not an evening where we make decisions. This is an evening where we are listening to inform future decision making. For the information of all those present tonight, a public hearing binder that contains all written submissions is available for review. If anyone wishes to comment on those submissions, they are also, of course, available in the online agenda. As the chair, I'll reserve the right to conclude any presentation made by any member of the public, council, or staff that does not relate to the proposed bylaw or is disrespectful towards any other person or is repetitive of views that the individual speaker has already made known to council. Finally, council members are here to listen to the public's opinion with an open mind. No one has prejudged the outcome of the application. So just a quick overview of the order of business for tonight. This is a very formal 7-step process that we are required to follow. First, the planning staff will introduce the proposed bylaws. Second, the council will formally receive written submissions provided prior to the public hearing. Third, any late submissions will be read aloud and formally received by council. Then fourth, the applicant will present the proposal if they wish. Next, council will ask clarifying questions of either the applicant or staff. Then 6, members of the public will be invited to provide comment on the bylaws. And then the last item of business is the public hearing is recessed or closed as determined by council motion. So I'm going to enter into the order of business for tonight. And again, thank you all for being here. The item number 1 is just to introduce the bylaw. So I'd like to invite planning staff to introduce the purposes of bylaw 4818 and 4819. Now tonight we have a bit of a treat and we have Mr. Bowl, who's just joined us as our new Director of Community Building and Planning. This is your 3rd day on the job, if I think correctly.
Correct, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Welcome. Very nice to have you on board and joining us this evening. And then I understand you'll hand this over to other staff to do some more of the detailed work. So welcome to the community, welcome to Oak Bay District, and welcome here tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Nice to meet you today, and a big thank you for the District of Oak Bay to allow me to join your staff team and to work with you in the coming years on projects, applications, and everything that needs to be done for the community. So I'm joined today by Caitlin McDougall, our senior planner, and she will give you further backgrounds to the bylaw today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowl. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the District of Oak Bay has received a zoning bylaw amendment application for 1391 Oliver Street. The surrounding neighborhood is predominantly made up of older single-family homes built in the early 1900s, though newer homes exist in the area as well. The development proposal for 1391 Oliver Street includes rezoning a portion of the property to facilitate subdivision of the larger lot into 2 smaller single-family lots. The new development would meet the RS5 zoning requirements. The new undeveloped lot would meet the RS5 zoning requirements, and a development permit would be required for buildings on that new parcel. The lot with the existing 1912 house does not conform to the following zoning bylaw regulations for the RS5 zone. So front yard setback, on-site parking requirements, side yard setback, maximum roof height and occupiable height, which are determined based on lot width, minimum lot area, minimum lot size, and floor area ratio. Therefore, a new RS5B zone is proposed to accommodate and preserve the existing home on a new smaller parcel. To date, Council has opted to proceed with the proposed heritage designation bylaw as the community amenity contribution for the rezoning. The heritage bylaw aligns with the CAC policy objectives as well as the OCP policy objectives. The existing house at 1391 Oliver Street has historically been known as the Smith Burdick residence, after the two most prominent Oak Bay families that originally lived in the home. The house was built in the British arts and crafts style and was designed by Oak Bay architect William D. Rochfort, who is most known for designing Victoria's Yacht Club and Royal Theatre. More information on the heritage values associated with the property are attached in the Statement of Significance, which can be found with the Heritage Designation Bylaw. So the zoning bylaw amendment received recommendation for approval from the Advisory Planning Commission at their June 7th, 2022 meeting, and the proposed heritage designation bylaw was referred to the June 21st Heritage Commission meeting. While the Commission recognized the heritage values of the property and were in favor of the heritage designation bylaw, it was recommended that the zoning bylaw amendment application be declined due to the perceived inadequate south yard setback and concerns about the implications of the rezoning and subdivision on the existing house. Since then, to address some of the Heritage Commission's concerns, the applicant has agreed to restrict the siting of the proposed new house using a 219 covenant. The covenant as proposed will ensure the following: so a no-build area and no excavation area in the front yard to protect the Gary Oak tree, a 3-meter wide no-build area that applies to buildings and structures along the north side of the new lot. Along the north side of the new lot would also be a 1-meter wide area that must be free of any type of structure to help restrict things like fences being constructed there to ensure more open space. Siting of the driveway along the south side of the new property and constructing a 3.5 meter wide driveway access would be required in a specific area, again, to help protect the Gary Oak tree. And siting of services would be located under the driveway, the new driveway and the new driveway access, again, to help preserve the Gary Oak tree. The overall intent of the covenant is to protect the Gary Oak tree and on the proposed Lot 1 and to create a larger open space between the existing home and the new house beyond the setbacks that would be required of an RS5 lot. The draft covenant will be provided to Council to inform for information prior to consideration of final adoption of any bylaws. Siting considerations would also be taken into consideration as part of the development permit process that will be required for the new single-family home. The terms of the covenant will help the new development achieve a contextual fit in the neighborhood, and the OCP supports residential subdivision and infill in established neighborhoods where a contextual fit is achieved. So in summary, the proposed zoning and heritage designation bylaws work together to effectively preserve the existing heritage values on the property and allow subdivision and redevelopment of the site in a way that is keeping with the neighborhood character. The applicant, Keith Miller, is here this evening with us as well and will be able to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McDougall. Next, we receive all of the written reports. So if I could get a motion that the written submissions received and distributed prior to the public hearing as attached to agenda item 2 be received, moved, and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That carries. We have a reading of new submission. Has the corporate officer received any additional submissions after 3 p.m. today?
Your worship, members of council, yes, I have one that I can read into the record for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coates. Please do so.
Thank you, your worship. It is a supplemental from Bronwyn Taylor to say the covenant addressed the reasons I would have spoken against the rezoning, so I didn't feel the need to attend in person.
Thank you. Short and sweet. That was the only late submission?
Your worship, that's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a motion that the written submissions received and not previously distributed to council members as attached to agenda item 3 be received? Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. We have next the applicant presentation, if they wish to do so. So here I invite the applicant to present their proposal. Do you have anything you wish to present to council?
There's some things I'd like to first let you get your work
So if you could push the button in the middle, I would just ask that you state your name and
Got it.
municipality of residence for the record, and then you have time to present.
Thanks, Mayor Murdoch, members of council. I'm Keith Miller. My wife, Catherine McLean, who's here with me today, we're the owners, and I've been the owners of 1391 Oliver now for 30 or so years. And so there are a few things I thought I might want to provide to council for your consideration. We want to thank you first for the opportunity to be here today to speak to our application, to our property application. And we want to give you also a little bit of background about us. We think that might be of some value. We also, though, wanted to start off by saying we really do appreciate the support we've been getting from Oak Bay planning staff to work our way through this, what can be a fairly complex process for homeowners, but we have appreciated the assistance from municipal staff. It's been fantastic. I would also like to introduce, we've Graham Farstad, who is here in the back, and Graham has been assisted us in submitting our application to Oak Bay. Graham is a planner. He's got over 40 years of experience in municipal planning and land use. Graham's also associated with Donald Luxton, who some of you may know, who's a fairly well-known planner in British Columbia, heritage planner, and he helped us and support us in developing our application on the heritage designation. So a bit of background on us. So Catherine and I have lived in Oak Bay since 1990. We've raised 2 daughters here. Both daughters went to Monterey Elementary, Oak Bay High. Both daughters were very involved in all kinds of community activities. Both daughters are now grown and they live away, but they love coming home to Oak Bay. And I think that's important to us, and that'll be a bit of a theme in other parts of my presentation today. A bit of background on us. So my wife, Catherine, she spent many years working for municipal recreation departments. So she worked for municipalities. In some of those roles, she was the manager of Heritage and Cultural Services, so she's got a good sense of the way municipalities function. As for me, most of my career was in transportation and capital planning. My most recently retired job, or my work, was I was responsible for the province's capital program, schools capital program, and in that role, I was pretty involved with a couple of upgrades here, Monterey Elementary, Willows Elementary, and very involved in the development of the new Oak Bay Secondary School. She's reminded me that she wanted me to tell you that she also served on the Recreation Commission for 6 years. That was very important, and that's when the Oak Bay, when the center was being expanded, and her name's on the plaque. Sorry about that. We only want to raise some of these kind of personal and career issues just to so you get a sense of who we are. We think that's important and the value that we have for this particular community. A few years ago, and I'll talk a bit about the application itself. So a few years ago, we initiated the application to subdivide our property, as we knew that we needed to begin downsizing. That was becoming apparent to us. Our wish at the time was to build a new house on the property that we have so that we could remain in the community and actually remain literally on the street in our area, in our neighborhood. We love Oak Bay. I think that's probably many of us here do. We have great neighbors. Some are here today, and they may say some hopefully positive things, we'll see, about our application. But our neighbors are also our friends. And as a result of that, we feel that after 3 decades of living where we live, we really do want to stay in the community, but very close to our current home. When we began considering downsizing, one of the issues we became aware of was that there was always a possibility, should we sell our home, that the large property would be bought by an owner-developer that may demolish the house, build a larger home on that larger property, or even build 2 new houses. And one of our hopes certainly is that we would like to protect that home from demolition and actually preserve it as a heritage house. We think that's quite important. When we purchased our home, though, in 1991, it wasn't in the best of shape. It was actually in very poor condition at the time. Over the years, we've completed a significant amount of work to restore the home inside and out and keep it in good repair over that 30-year period. Today, we think it's a beautiful older home. And if some of you have been by our property, you may get a sense of that. We've also, over the last several years, developed this very significant garden. It's a beautiful garden, and of course that garden will be affected by this development, and we're very conscious of that. Now, we'll be very sensitive to that as well. We can guarantee you that. As I mentioned, though, downsizing is becoming a real high priority for us. Our efforts to maintain the house, and a lot of that I do personally, is becoming more difficult and, of course, more costly as we're now both retired. Those are important considerations. So as a result of that, we have a plan, and we're hoping that we can get council support for that plan. And of course, the first part of the plan is we propose the heritage designation for the existing house, which would achieve our intention of preserving the house going forward as a heritage home, for our 1912 home. And that is important to us as well. We also hope to, of course, create a new legal lot on the south side of the property that we build a new home that's accessible, one story maybe to live on, for example, modern, warm, those kinds of things. So we're hoping to do that, and so that we can actually live in that house as we age. We think that's very important to us. In putting together this proposal, we've consulted pretty extensively with the neighbors. The neighbors, I consulted pretty broadly, but I just wanted to say that the neighbors within the immediate vicinity of our house, all the properties that adjoin our property, as well as some of the neighbors across the street, and we have one here today, have been highly supportive of our proposal. We thought that was important to do that. We knew that consultation was important, but as I said, many of these neighbors are our friends, and we want to keep it that way. So in closing, what Catherine and I wanted to say to you, to council, is that we're sensitive to the issues, for example, that the Heritage Commission came up with. We're quite sensitive of that. And so as we move forward to build this house, this is us building this house, and we will take every care we can to make sure that we minimize the impact on that existing garden and property, know that we're building something new. So it is important to us that that is done and it's done properly. And we just wanted to leave you with that thought today, particularly with some of the issues that the Heritage Commission raised. We are in sympathy with some of those. And as a result of that, the covenants that Caitlin has talked about are some of the things that we're proposing to respond, so that when the house is structured and built, we're going to have reasonable setbacks from Oliver Street. We're in a reasonable space between us and the existing house. These are very important to us as well. So that is our plan going forward. So we want to thank you, and thanks for listening, and hope we can get council to support our plan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller, and Ms. McLean for the corrections and improvements to the presentation. And we'll, with the conclusion of that, we will move on to chance for council to ask questions, for clarifying questions of the applicant or staff.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that members of council have for the applicant or for staff on this matter? Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering if you could clarify for me the form letter that has been signed by many of your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Were they aware of the size of lot prior to signing that document?
When you say size of the lot, could you be specific about that?
Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Yes, definitely. Were they aware that the lot line would be so close to the stairs of the Heritage House?
Thanks for that. I don't think they would have been, they would have understood that detail specifically.
And then I have one more question, and this might be through to staff, if that's applicable. If, for example, there was an indication that it would be, we would like to see perhaps 10 feet shaved off the lot line for the new lot. And to staff, how would that change this process? Would it have to go back out and be reapplied for and have a new public hearing? Or is there an ability to make a change to an application without having to go back to a public hearing?
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Ms. McDougall?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. Yes, it's an excellent question. Certainly shaving off additional 10 feet on the new undeveloped lot would change things significantly. Currently, it's a bit of an interesting approach because the new lot meets the zoning. It's the house with the parcel with the house that does not. So that's a bit of an interesting approach. So we would then be essentially changing the application because the new lot would need a new zone. It's currently zoned RS5. So to make any changes to things like lot area, which would be required for that, would require a complete new zone to be constructed, similar to what we're doing with the RS5B zone, essentially. So we would have to go back to the beginning of the process, go back through the Advisory Planning Commission again, Heritage Commission most likely as well, and proceed that way and do another public hearing. So it would essentially be, oops, my apologies, starting from the get-go.
Thank you for that, Ms. McDougall. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
And I guess that's my question, is that it's unfortunate that we didn't go to the Heritage Commission first before I think we moved forward with this, because it would have been interesting to have their input prior to coming to public hearing. I understand that was just the way it has been, but it was interesting to read their information. So I'll pass it on to, I see Councillor Green has a question. I'll pass it on to her.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Just for the clarification of process here, this came to council where we considered first and second reading. It was then sent to Heritage Commission where they provided their input, and that input informed the covenant, the 219 covenant. Before I go to Councillor Green, I think the applicant wished to answer the question as well.
Am I'm able to respond to Councillor Braithwaite? If I
It's
could?
on my discretion, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. The nearness of that lot line is also a great concern of ours as well. It always has been. I know the commission did pick that up, most certainly. Our neighbors wouldn't have been aware of that. We certainly were. We're hoping we can satisfy that with the covenant. And I think what I wanted to express is that we want to make sure that when this house is sited and built, that there's adequate space between the homes. That is really important to us as well. We would like to do that through a covenant that's appropriate to achieve that, rather than maybe go back through the entire process again.
Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Just to follow up on that. Just to follow up to that about the covenant, just can staff remind me, if a covenant is put in place now, does that mean that it could be taken off in the future? Is it on there for eternity, perpetuity?
Ms. McDougall, what is the process for adding and removing Section 219 covenants?
Thank you for the excellent question. So the covenant would be basically party to the property owner and the district, and it would require the district to discharge it in the future if that were to ever come up. So essentially, it would be effective in perpetuity.
Councillor Braithwaite.
Unless the district and the property owner could come to an agreement to get rid of the covenant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Green. You have a question?
Thank you very much. Thank you to the owners for being here tonight. Further to Councillor Braithwaite's question, through you, Mayor, to Ms. McDougall, sorry. I just wanted to ask, that is a major concern, I know, on the part of the Heritage Commission, to ensure that there is enough space around the heritage home. There were concerns about encroachment, not enough room for privacy, for garden, etc. So I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, the covenant then achieves adequate space to provide adequate privacy between the two structures? Thank you.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you again, through you, Your Worship. From staff's perspective, yes, the covenant is an effective way to essentially create an additional buffer between the two buildings to ensure a greater amount of open space. It essentially doubles the required setback on the new lot from 1.52 meters to 3 meters. So staff feel that that's an adequate response to the Heritage Commission's request and concerns.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question on the amount of the amenity of $6,000. I just wondered, through you, Mayor, to Ms. McDougall again, how was that calculated? Thank you.
Ms. McDougall?
So the excellent question, and again, thank you through your worship. The community amenity contribution policy that the district has adopted sets out specific required targets based on units being units being proposed as a result of rezoning. So in this case, the policy requires $6,000 for one new residential unit. That's where that number has come from.
Thank you.
Thank you
Councillor
very
Ney.
much. That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
No, thank you. Go ahead, I have Councillor Ney next.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mayor, to staff, I'm wondering, for the benefit of clarity, if you, Ms. McDougall, you may clarify, in the covenant, it shows the proposal to be a 3-meter wide on the north side of the new building. So were the two lots just regular RS5 lots? What would be, could you help us, just give us that number, what the distance would be between the two properties where the building, between the two buildings of two separate properties?
Thank you, Councillor Ney. Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Yes, I anticipated that this question might come up this evening, so I did prepare a bit of a rough sketch, not quite exactly to scale perhaps, but I think it'll help illustrate what the covenant would do. I believe some of our corporate services wonderful team has that up and is going to pull it up on the screen for you. So let me just flip over here. It's a bit faint, sorry about that, but there's a bit of a dotted line there that shows where a 1.52 meter standard setback would be for the RS5 lot. That light teal area there shows you what effectively the new covenant would do in terms of restricting building in that area.
Mr. Mayor, could we get a pointer or something? Because I'm having difficulty following that. I don't know if others are, or is it just me? Yeah, sorry. I'm just not sure what you're speaking to, that's
I
all.
might just ask, could staff, since we're watching a demonstration on your screen, could we zoom in on the graphic so we see just the lots? Are we able to zoom in at all on that graphic, or is it? There we go. Thank you. I think that's very helpful. Okay, so Ms. McDougall, you can just highlight again where the property line is, where what the dark teal and the light teal are.
Absolutely. So, so essentially the property line there is just outside of where the dark teal would be. The dark teal area indicates a 1 meter no structure area. So that's basically intended to restrict any fences being constructed too close to the existing stairs. The dotted line shows you where a standard setback area would be for an RS5 lot. So if there wasn't any covenant at all, that's essentially what the 1.52 meter setback would be roughly. Again, this is not exactly to scale, but it's just illustrative purposes. So the light teal then shows you basically what a 3 meter additional no build restricted area would be along the whole north side of that parcel. And if you can zoom out a little bit, we've tried to kind of show you essentially what the buildable area, again, roughly not exactly to scale, would look like on that lot, given the additional restrictions. So again, it's essentially doubling the setback on that north side of lot 1 from 1.52 meters to a 3 meter area.
Just to summarize that, then if this was two RS5 lots starting from scratch, what's the difference between what we're looking at and what that would look like? Any?
Ms. McDougall?
Yes, so it's a bit of a tough question because we could not do two RS5 lots for the proposed lot 2 and proposed lot 1 because of the lot area requirements of the, so.
That said, what would the setbacks look like here?
So the setback would be the 1.52 meters, which is the dotted line there.
So is it accurate to say this is more then? Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Day, anything else? Councillor Braithwaite, go ahead for a second time.
Thank you. Actually, just something came up from what Councillor Ney was had pointed out, and about you talking about the fence line. So you said that no fence could be built on. So in that whole teal area, the dark and the light, no fence can be built at all, or because how will you, if say one house had kids or dogs or whatever that they were trying to keep in, how would they do that if they couldn't build a fence on their property?
Ms. McDougall?
So the darkest teal area there, which would be a 1 meter strip along the north property line, would be the no structure zone. So just to basically create a bit more room to ensure that there's not going to be a fence built right up against the property line. That being said, a fence could be built in the light teal area. That would just be a no build zone. So no houses in that area, more or less.
And sorry, Mayor, through you, that would
ahead.
then be on the covenant for the, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. For clarification of all here, there's no restrictions on the Heritage House. If they want to put up a fence, there's no restrictions on that side of the piece. So, okay, that's correct. Thank you. For those listening at home, that was a nod in the affirmative.
So
ahead,
that,
Councillor Braithwaite.
that's interesting then. So the Heritage House could then build the fence right up against those stairs and do what the Heritage Commission is actually afraid of happening, which is that a building or a structure would be too close to the Heritage Building.
Ms.
The property with the existing heritage house, if a heritage designation bylaw is passed, heritage alteration permits are required in most instances. However, because a fence does not require a building permit, it would not be subject to a heritage alteration permit. So it could essentially be constructed without further review.
Thank you. Essentially, for as I understand that, then this is there to protect the owners of the heritage home, to ensure that they have adequate green space around and aren't hemmed in by the fence by a neighbor, but obviously, but they could build a fence anywhere in their property that they saw fit.
That is correct.
Is there any other? Oh, Councillor Green, you have another question? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor, and through you to Ms. McDougall. Ms. McDougall, the covenant runs with the owner or with the property in perpetuity. And the only reason I'm asking for clarification, what would happen if this lot was subdivided and then, plans might change, things might happen. If the lot is then sold, does the covenant still apply for a new owner? Thank you.
Ms. McDougall?
Excellent question. Yes, so it does run with the property. It's registered to the title of the property and remains with the property, not with the owner.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions of the applicant or of staff on the matter? Oh, Councillor Green, your hand is still up, but I think that's just a legacy hand up. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions from members of council. So I'll just leave it one more moment here to see if there's any other questions that have arisen.
Just through you, Mayor, to staff, given that a future owner, should this go through, of the heritage property could build a fence close to the structure, is there any other solution here? I'm sure you've spent a lot of time thinking this through in the applicant. Are there any other solutions here that could mitigate that proximity to the structure?
Ms. McDougall?
I suppose we could do something similar for the for the lot with the heritage house as we're doing for the new house. It would have to be a separate covenant that would be registered to the title of that property, where you restricted any fences from being built along that side. That would probably be the only option. I just want to clarify too one thing, that the stairs aren't accessed from the side. They're accessed. The stairs are accessed from the east and west, not from the south.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall. Go ahead again, Councillor Braithwaite.
Sorry, just to clarify again, if the property line was changed to have the second lot or the new lot to be 40 feet, and that 10 feet added on to the heritage house, then would that change the diagram that you had up? Would that change that significantly?
Ms. McDougall?
Yes, that would completely alter the proposal.
Sorry, I was not being very clear. Would that change where the house, the new house could be built in relation to the property line, or would that setback be similar to what is being proposed with that covenant?
Ms. McDougall?
I'm just trying to run the math in my head a little bit. Can you give me just a moment just so I can think about that? It should be about the same location. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Braithwaite. Are there any other questions of the applicant or staff at this time? I don't see any, so I'm going to conclude this portion of the meeting. We move on next to the public input portion. So we'll invite members of the public. The public input portion of the meeting for members of the public, I'll skip this around a little bit. If you're watching the live webcast, because there's a bit of a delay, and you wish to speak to council, if we could put the Zoom meeting on the meeting ID up on the screen. If you wish to speak to council, please join the Zoom meeting using the meeting ID and passcode listed on your screen or at the top of the agenda package. For members of the public attending in person who wish to speak, a member of staff will be with you in a moment. Just please indicate to the staff person that you would like to speak to council. Speakers will be accommodated into chambers or into the desk one at a time, and the desk chair and the microphone will be sanitized between each use. And again, if you're members of the public on Zoom who wish to speak to council, please use the reactions tab at the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. You'll see reactions and then raise hand. If you have joined by phone, please hit *9 to raise your hand. That's if you called into the 1-855 number showing on the screen. You can hit *9 to raise your hand. I will see that on this screen, and we will invite you into the meeting. I will just identify you by your phone number at that time. So as we play a little bit of musical chairs inside the chambers here, thank you everybody for being so accommodating. We'll just do a quick clean and then we'll invite members of the public to come forward. I will leave it to staff to manage who comes up first, second, third, etc. So perhaps we do this in order. Or perhaps I will just take it. Are there members of the public who wish to address council? So I just need a show of just a hand up and I'll invite you to come up. Yeah, come up. So our process here is, as I noted at the beginning, try and limit your comments to 5 minutes. State your name and municipality of residence, and you are welcome to address council.
Welcome, familiar faces. My name is John Armitage. I'm known to most of you. I live on Victoria Avenue in Oak Bay. I'm an architect. First of all, I've never met the applicants, but I want to compliment them on an exemplary proposal and on a bend over backwards approach to attempting to satisfy concerns. I did a brief examination or analysis of the breakdown from the planner's report. I also want to mention that there's a very relevant precedent for this subdivision, and that is 2176 Windsor Road, wherein the application was to create a lot that was, by a minuscule amount, undersized. Almost exactly the same amount as this. Essentially a rounding error. Essentially the difference between a surveyor placing a peg on a windy day or a not windy day. Or the difference in a metric to imperial conversion or vice versa. An irrelevant consideration, and the same applies here. So the fact that you couldn't, strictly speaking, legally create two RS5 lots here because of the property size, when the difference is 0.6 square meters, that we shouldn't be considering that. We're tying ourselves up in unnecessary knots. So we should consider them to be two RS5 compliant lots. That's the first thing. The Roslyn, this is the corner of Roslyn and Windsor. That property, I think there was, yes, there was heritage designation applied to the existing house, which was the former St. Michael's Schoolhouse, primarily for its historical associations, not for its architecture. A decent enough building, but not for the architecture as applies here. And there wasn't room, because it was a corner lot, to do the kinds of things that are proposed here, enforcing a 10-meter setback on one side of the lot, instead of leaving it up to the owner of the newly created lot to decide where to put the 10-meter setback, 10-foot setback. Conventionally, just so you know, setbacks are 5 feet and 10 feet, or an aggregate anywhere within that. You can have two setbacks of 7.5 feet, whatever. It's worth pointing out that the existing house exceeds that aggregate by quite a bit. And especially on the south side of the house, it's nearly 12 feet. It's only the porch that gets closer. This property is like many in South Oak Bay, where they were developed with a large house on a double-sized lot, and then were infilled in subsequent decades. There's one nearby, I think it's on Transit, that has a tennis court on that side lot. If this property had a tennis court, where do you think the fence would be? It would be right at the porch. That's where you'd put the fence, because you'd need all that space. So the notion of a fence or no fence is not significant from an architectural point of view. You can see that I'm launching into a critique of this 219 covenant. I believe this 219 covenant is an expression of a design concern that is best resolved not by applying a covenant drawn up that we've seen, but by applying design concerns or guidelines to be embodied in a future DP. So any future design would go for a development permit and would go through design panel and heritage panel, and then they could look at the solution to see whether it satisfies the design and the intent of those covenants. So when I see a covenant placed around a tree that's rectangular or square, I don't know that a tree that grows that shape. The covenant should relate to the objective, which is typically drip zone, canopy, root zone. And to say that there needs to be an enforced 10-foot strip across, I'm sorry, Mayor,
So we've just hit the
few things to
5-minute
say.
mark, so if you don't mind just touching your points
Yeah,
quickly
yeah,
and moving, and we can
I'm-
always come back for a second if you have more to add.
okay, and there may be questions, so I'm nearly there. So to enforce a 10-foot strip right the way from front to back across that property does not satisfy what I perceive to be the intent of Heritage's concerns, which is that you preserve a sense of space around the house, existing house. And the way this was done for 2176 Windsor was a view line from the corner of the property. Something similar could apply here. So the way that your analysis, which is very, very helpful, has been constructed, it would force an applicant to build on the new property parallel to the existing house, and would defeat the purpose of the covenant. Whereas if you left it to the discretion of a good designer and subsequent review, you might have a much more amenable design solution that creates space like a tennis court size in front of, when I say in front, I don't mean from the street, I mean from the side lot, in front of the existing house. So I think there there could be, what we see as the 219 covenant now is a design solution, but I believe that's an unnecessarily intrusive one and may not achieve what it's intended to. I think it's better to put some conditions into the rezoning such that when a subsequent design comes for a DP, it has certain objectives that it needs to meet.
Thank you, Mr.
I think
Armitage.
that's enough to be said for now. Thank you.
Sure. And you're welcome to come back up after. I just want to give people a chance to speak here, so thank you for that. We may move, if anybody else wish to address council on the application? Just give me a little wave and or just stand up and walk into the microphone if you wish. Nope. I'm going to call for us, oh, go ahead, for first time. You'll see we make extra effort here to make sure that everybody who's interested in speaking has a chance to speak, so.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Graham Farstead, Arlington Group Planning. Just a couple of points I'd like to make as the representing the applicant. The issues of setbacks really were intended to accomplish two separate purposes. One was to protect the oak tree, and the other was to provide a separation distance from the existing house. The request from engineering, planning, and our arborist was to confine the development area to minimize the impact on the drip corridor, which of course the architect knows is a circular corridor, not square. But because this is actually two conjoined oak trees that are magnificent and have a huge drip line that would extend through the entire front yard. Obviously, the solution is to minimize the impact, not eliminate it, because you couldn't have a driveway if that was the case. So the request was to confine the driveway to the southern portion of the lot. The request was within the southerly 4.3 meters. Actually, the required driveway width is only 3.5 meters, so we'll actually be even farther away from that. So the covenant request for tree protection purposes was for 10.953 meters from the front property line, leaving 4.3 meters on the south, and then a minimum setback of 8.5 meters from the front property line. The bylaw requirement is 7.5, and the house to the south is 11.1. So this would result in a staggered situation where the new house would be somewhat midway between the existing house and the one to the south. So I think the sense of proportion would be reasonable. The other aspect deals with the view corridors and the separation. And of course, as the applicant indicated, he very much wants to see a decent separation because it's his house and he's got a magnificent view to the south. The intent of the 3 meters would actually allow for a 45-meter view line corridor from the porch looking towards the street. So you'd have a 45-degree clear vision area looking out toward the oak tree and the street, giving you unimpeded vision there, plus the distance of 3.04 meters. 3 meters within the property, plus an additional 0.676 meters on the south. So, that's approximately 12 feet. So the separation between the porch and the new house would be more than would be required under 2 RS5 requirements. So that was the technical side there. The other aspect that I think is important just to reinforce is that the application is only 0.6 meters shy of 2 RS5 lots. That's like really minuscule. So the applicant does want to retain the existing house and was very supportive of it being designated heritage. At the initial onset, they were given the option of $6,000 for the amenity charge or heritage designation, and because of their 30-year association with protecting and enhancing the value of that in character with its heritage characteristics, they indicated they would prefer to see the heritage designation. There's a few minor modifications required to compensate for that, and I believe we've done that. Finally, as a planner, I very rarely see such strong community support for an application. And the applicant consulted with all of the neighbors within the 50-meter circulation distance, and not one of them indicated opposition. In fact, the letters of support were, all of them were in support or did not indicate opposition. The letter that was sent to all the neighbors did show the existing house and the relationship to the property line. So that information was available, and the three elements that people signed for was site-specific zoning of the existing house, heritage designation, and creation of a second lot on the remainder of the site with no change in zoning. So those are the three elements that were part of the public consultation.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
think
Farstead.
that really covers the points that I think that I can add to the process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farstead. Thank you. And just, again, I'll make a call to any members of the public who wish to address council. I did say at the beginning, but I'll say it again here, just if your name and your comments are being recorded, and they'll form part of the minutes of the public hearing and part of the permanent public record. And I should have really asked if you can state clearly if you're in favor or opposed to the application at the beginning as well. That helps us take clear notes. So I don't see any other hands popping up, so I am going to ask for speakers are invited to speak a second time if you're providing new or additional information, but if you're interested for first-time speakers, anybody else wishes to come forward? Yep, Mr. Armitage, you're welcome to come back for a second time. Oh, and there's a member online as well, so I do see the member online. I will call on them after Mr. Armitage has a second chance to speak. Again, if you just state your name, and you've already sort of stated that you're in favor.
Thank
but if
you,
could just state
John
it
Armitage,
clearly.
Victoria Avenue, Oak Bay. Thank you for the second dip. I want to change tack on this. This is the 30,000 foot level view. We have an overcrowded planet. We have an overcrowded Vancouver Island. Not overcrowded, but it may become so. We have a responsibility in this community to do more. And is there an easier, lower hanging fruit than this one? This is something that council, as the community's representative, should be promoting, not adding extra restrictions to. I believe there are sufficient ways, as I outlined before, to satisfy the aesthetic concerns of the community without imposing undue burdens, legal burdens, on the newly created property. The newly created property will conform with the RS5 zone. But I believe that there should be a willingness and an effort on council's part to match the effort and willingness on the applicant's part to provide this really easy extra infill lot, which in every other respect conforms and can be required to conform to RS5, tree protection, contextual front setback, everything you wish. The only non-complying part would be the existing. And how common is that in Oak Bay, that existing doesn't comply? Show me a house from that era that does comply. And that's what we love about this community, because we're all a bit non-complying, are we not? So anyway, that's my philosophical take on it, is that we shouldn't get hung up on the legalisms about it. I don't believe that's necessary here. I believe there is enough mechanisms in place that the collective needs can be met.
Thank you, Mr. Armitage. I see someone online. If I could just ask if you can hit *6 to unmute yourself. I see the phone number ending in 4826. Again, the same process. You have up to 5 minutes, and if you could state your name, municipality of residence. If you could also state whether you're in favor or opposed to the proposed bylaw, and then provide your comments. Sorry, did I hit? Is it *6 or *9? No, *6 should unmute you. If you can hit *6. we should be able to hear you. I can't unmute them. So not #6, but if you hit *6, you should be able to unmute. This is the person with the, you've hit *9 to raise your hand, but if you hit *6 now, this is the phone number ending in 4826. Oh, there we go. You're unmuted. So if you could just state your name, municipality of residence, if you're in favor or opposed, and then you have your time to address council. Go ahead, caller, with the last digits 4826. You are unmuted. You are remuted somehow. Again, you were remuted. If you could possibly just hit *6 to unmute, we can take your. There we go. You're unmuted again. Go ahead. It's
My name is Bronwyn Taylor, and I think I was premature in seeing the covenant. My name is Bronwyn Taylor, and I think I was premature in seeing the covenant as a satisfactory solution to having space to view the existing house.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Is that the summary of your comment? You seem a little broken up on our end. You're back on mute? Okay, so that answers that piece. Is there any other members of the public who wish to address council? Oh, you're back again, Ms. Bronwyn? Ms. Taylor?
I am, and I'm having an issue with my phone here.
Yeah, it's a little garbled, but we can hear you. If you can just speak loudly and clearly into your microphone, I think that would help.
I am going to go to my landline rather than my cordless phone. I think that might solve the problem.
You are quite clear now. Okay, we have a third call for public input in any case, so we'll give.
Is this better?
Oh, that is better.
Can you hear me better now?
We can. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. It sounded like you hung up on us completely. Go ahead.
No, I have trouble with my cordless phone, so I've gone back to I keep the landline off the hook when I try and speak in front of the computer, but obviously it wasn't working well. So I do think I must have been premature in seeing the covenant as a satisfactory solution to having space to view the existing house. If the new owner has the ability to, or a future owner, any future owner has the ability to build a fence along the property line or even close to the property line, it becomes the same problem that the Heritage Commission raised earlier as the not being able to view and have the public having the view of the property. So if it's going to be like that, I have to go back to not being in favor of the rezoning as it stands.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Okay, thank you. I won't clang the phone down this time. I'll go back to my computer so I can see the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. If you could hit *6 again to mute, that would be helpful. I think we can do it from our end as well. I'm going to make another call for members of the public. If anybody else wishes to address council, you're welcome to do so. This is considered the second. Yes, please come forward. So I think you probably figured out the process now. Name, municipality, and residence if you're in favor or opposed, and your comments. And we'll try and keep them to 5 minutes if you can. Welcome.
My name is Michael Turner, and I'm a neighbor immediately opposite to the applicants, and I'm in favor of their proposal. And I just wanted to support a point that Mr. Braithwaite made. This is the amount of land that we are talking about, interfering with common sense. That's the end of my submission. Thank you.
For those who are listening online, there was a piece of paper held up that is approximately 3 feet by 2 feet as to demonstrate the square footage of the difference. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to address council? I'll consider that the second call. So I'm going to call on the public for a third and final time. So please be reminded that this is a public hearing. It's the final opportunity to provide council with comments prior to the potential consideration of the proposed bylaw. If there are any additional written submissions to be included in the public record of this hearing, you must provide that submission to the corporate officer now, prior to the close of the public hearing. So this is the third and final call for public input. I think something that isn't always clear is that once we conclude the public hearing, there's no more public input until council does deliberation. So we don't get another chance to come and readdress council. So if you wish to address us, this is it. Make that in plain English. I don't see anybody else, either online or in person, who have indicated they wish to address council. Staff concur. There was no other piece. So with that, the public hearing is now closed. Now that the public hearing is closed, no further submissions or comments from, there's no further submissions or comments from the public or interested persons can be accepted by members of council. Please be advised that should council need clarification or staff opinion on issues raised at this public hearing or the information associated with the public hearing, council can request such clarification from staff after the close of the public hearing at the following regular council meeting when third reading of the proposed bylaw is considered. So with that, I believe we are at the point now where we need to adjourn the public hearing. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. So this matter is currently scheduled to come back to council next Monday, June the 21st. So, oh no, 18th, July the 18th, not June either, July the 18th. So thank you all for coming out. I hope you enjoyed our public hearing time in chambers. And we will now, at this point, let you go and enjoy the beautiful evening that is ahead of you.